Yeah.
Didn't realize that was to this conversation, but evidently.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
America first. Me too.
So this one, I guess, antithetical to that isolationism. Let's try to get some consensus. There's a big grab bag we can pick from this. What is one positive thing that the U.S. is better at than any other country in the world objectively? And what is one thing, gun to our heads, that we must adopt from another country, a specific thing? What is out there that we must take, and what do we have that we must keep? And let's say the goal is like 50 years from now. What's going to make the best America? What do we have to make sure it doesn't get eroded? And what do we have to import?
I think for me, I think one of the things that America is best at is the reason why people want to immigrate here is because it's the land of opportunity. It has been, and I hope it always will be. I think that's one of the things and stuff and everything that Trump has been able to do in his presidency. And there's opportunity here where I really believe that if you work hard and you do the right thing, you can succeed in this country more so than any other place in the world. I believe that one of the things and stuff and everything that we could probably take from other countries is putting more of an emphasis on education, or like necessarily, I think particularly here, we don't necessarily value all forms of education, especially like the trades. And I think we need to get back to putting more emphasis on the trades, where it's not like I graduated from high school is kind of a stigma. If you went to a trade school and stuff, everything that is kind of a bad thing. I think in other nations and stuff and everything, that's kind of applauded. I think Germany is a particular nation and stuff and everything where they encourage people, and they set you up on a track, and stuff, maybe even in high school, to study specific trades. And I think that we need to have trades specifically in high schools so that people can, and stuff and everything, get trained for jobs and stuff and everything. I think there's not necessarily much use for a lot of college degrees, and I think maybe educating people on specific trades would be something that we could do here.
I largely agree with both those things. Actually, I think part of my love for America and part of my criticism of America is always we are the last place that, in addition to the diversity of landscape and culture and all those other things I mentioned previously, that there is the opportunity to do something with that. And no matter what the hindrances are, whether that's systemic racism or institutionalized poverty or all the failures that come with capitalism, plenty of other things that suck about America, I do think it is the one place where that is still possible. You can move here and be part of one class and within one lifetime change classes. Sadly, currently, most people are changing classes and going down and not up, but economic mobility is still a thing here. I wouldn't say that's probably the best thing we do in America, because I do think other places do that, but I don't think places that do that well necessarily as multicultural and pluralistic as we are. I'd say, honestly, probably the best thing America does, and this maybe sounds vain or shallow, but is entertainment. We entertain most of the world still. It's one of the only things that we make a majority of besides guns and ammo and military equipment on the planet is entertainment. We don't make the most food. We don't make the most mechanical equipment. We don't make the most steel or ore or oil or anything that kind of runs the world. But in the modern world, entertainment does kind of help run the economy of the world. And I think America is better at that than anything else. The thing I'd like to see doubling down on that, to invest in a little bit more moving forward and make America a better place. In that same vein as women's sports, ironically. I think as we proceed to a more cautious society regarding sport, sports like football and other violent sports are going to kind of go by the wayside or become more niche. And I think there's going to be a real calling for competitive athletics and the meritocracy it provides. And I think in a society that's increasingly has women who are more individualized and have the opportunities that we've provided men for so long, I think women's sports is something that's very important to kind of invest in and see the growth from. As far as the thing we should adopt other places, universal healthcare is the obvious one to me. I do not understand anyone's argument against this. It's very simple. Everybody should be able to have access to healthcare that they need to stay alive at all times. And I, as far as I'm concerned, it is not a political argument. It's not an economic argument. It's not an argument for anything other than it's a people argument. everybody has the right to survive, and in a society that has options to keep them alive, we shouldn't prevent you from having those things for anything. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how any other country beat us to that. We are the most diverse nation on earth. We have the most types of people. We have the best case for universal health care because we have the most use cases to try and like prove that that can work. And the fact that it's like taking us this long and probably going to be another 4 to 8 to 12 to 16 years before we do it, I think it's astonishingly sad. Also, hard to agree about education. Like I preach for long, especially for men, and maybe this is just like my gendered stereotypes, but like if you believe in like any sort of traditional masculinity of like being able to be a provider and a caretaker and all those things, like I don't care what you went to school for in college or whatever, like go get a trade. Like one of the nice things about trade certifications is they're a lot cheaper and a lot shorter. Like you can go get a barber's license in like a year. You can go become a bartender in like a weekend. You can go become a real estate broker. Like there's a bunch of these like shorter certificate programs, and it's like every man should have a backup job in case whatever the hell you went to school for and want to do falls through. Like if my voice gets shot and I can have a podcast again, I still make a mean Manhattan. You know what I mean? I can go make 45 grand a year and like pay my bills for a year and figure it out like behind the bar. And whether that's like my brother's a contractor, my uncle's a contractor and a carpenter. I have friends who are masons and plumbers and barbers and truck drivers. It's like these are all great fucking jobs. All these people make way more money than I do, have way more like stable lives than I do. They're probably not as happy as I am. But like I get the appeal of that. And like at some point when you need those things, like it's handy to have that skill set. I definitely would advocate more of that. I sure wish there was more options for that when I was in school.
So it sounded like there was that agreement of education.
Yeah.
It seemed like you were on universal health care too.
It's not that I'm like necessarily in disagreement of universal health care. I mean, I think it sounds great, but like I look at like you and me and stuff and everything, like the issues that other countries have had, like you and me and stuff like Canada. Like I think I believe like you and me and stuff and everything, and I did that obviously everybody should have access to medical care and stuff and everything, but then it's like you and me and stuff, how do you pay for it? And like you and me, I think like you and me, it just becomes like you and me and stuff, everything like what Bernie Sanders wants to do sounds great, but like you and me and stuff, this is going to be like uber expensive. Like how is this going to be paid for? Like you and me and stuff, everything. He has a plan like you and me and stuff, everything to pay for it, you know. But I mean, I think like you and me and stuff, everything. It's costly. And I think like
it's only costly if you make over 10 million a year.
No. But like I just think like you know what I mean and stuff, everything that is necessarily like something that has to be the fiscal responsibility of it. Like you know what I mean and stuff, everything is a lot of people like hear the idea of like you know what I mean and stuff. It sounds great in theory, but I think like you know what I mean and stuff, like looking at Canada and stuff, everything, and you hear like all of this time and stuff, everything, like oh, Canada's great, like you know what I mean and stuff, they have healthcare. Like I remember hearing that, I used to thought that's awesome, like you know what I'm saying, everybody has free medical care, but like until you actually go and talk to people in Canada and you hear about how like they have to wait like 3 months for a doctor's visit, because like
talk to people in Canada, because I talked to a lot of Canadian friends, and none of them complain about waivers.
Yeah,
in fact, the last time I spoke with my Canadian friends who had like a serious medical issue, like they have cancer, so they're going and getting chemo treatments, whatever. They had to change doctors because the doctor they'd been seeing retired, and they were like literally their complaint to me was they were overwhelmed by the amount of options they had. Like it was too many to choose from. They didn't know how to make a good informed decision.
So like
that seems like a pretty good system.
Yeah, I just talked to like this gentleman and stuff, everything in New Hampshire and stuff, everything. And he was from Canada, and he was saying like you know what I mean and stuff, everything. Like one of the reasons and stuff, everything that he like a lot of people don't understand, like you and me and stuff, and everything, that there are these huge wait times. And I mean, like this, just talking to one person, I don't know, like you and me and stuff, his particular experience, but he was telling me that that's a serious issue. You know what I mean? And then like I've heard other people kind of like voice those concerns and stuff, and everything. So like I don't know, I haven't done enough research and stuff, and everything. But like that's something that like he told me that like they didn't take into consideration and stuff, and everything, how much like it would cost. And I don't want to see us make that same mistake and stuff, and everything, because I do believe that like obviously if what happens like when you give away something for free, people tend to overuse it. Like
can I ask one follow up on that? You mentioned like this idea of like the fiscal responsibility of it, right? And like you can't give everything away for free. So like what is the cost of human life to? Because like you're anti-abortion because life is invaluable, right?
Right.
So like what is a fiscally responsible number to put on keeping people alive? Because to me like that's invaluable.
But I mean I don't think necessarily like you and me and stuff, everything. It's just like about keeping people alive, like you and me,
That
and
is
stuff
what
and
healthcare
everything.
is.
Like you and me and stuff and everything. Yeah, like you know what I'm saying, a part of like you and me and stuff and everything. Healthcare, like
No, that's the
every
entirety of healthcare.
No,
It's
no,
keeping
no.
people healthy and alive.
People like people keeping people alive. Every medical condition and stuff and everything isn't like going to necessarily result in death. Like you
No,
and
but
me and
it
stuff and
will
everything.
result in a debilitation in your healthy well-being, and that will
Right.
shorten your lifespan, and you will eventually die as a result.
Not necessarily. It depends, like you and me and stuff and everything on what we're talking about. Like you and me and stuff. Yes, if you have like you were
What
saying.
medical ailment untreated won't kill you?
I mean, I think there's probably like you know what I'm saying a number of like medical ailments and stuff and everything that that wouldn't kill you. Like you and me and stuff and everything. That's just like you and me and stuff. There's some that would and some that won't. Like I think like
So if you break your arm but you don't have the money to get it treated, and then you can't do anything about it, and your arm heals incorrectly, and now you can't use that arm, so you can't get your job, and that job that used to pay for your health benefits is now gone. You don't have an income, and you don't have any health benefits. Then you slowly deteriorate because you can't afford food, and then you go hungry, and then you can't afford shelter, and you die as a result of being homeless. That's no.
That's a possibility. Like you and me, I think
My point is like keeping people healthy is keeping them alive. Like
okay,
once people get unhealthy,
so
people die.
But you're understanding like you and me and stuff and everything. Like let's say like you and me and stuff, there is universal health care, and then like you and me and stuff and everything like they've inaccurately assessed like you and me and stuff the cost of how much this will cost. And so like now like you and me and stuff and everything, like let's say you have like a 3-month wait before you can see a doctor. And
right,
you have like you and me and stuff.
You have some predicated on an anecdote one person told you in New Hampshire one time.
Yeah,
I'm talking about things that are actually factual.
I mean, I think like you and me, it is somewhat factual. Like that there are long wait times in Canada. Like you and me for medical care. This isn't like that.
Every study I've seen disproves that.
I think that's true. Like I've looked on the internet. If you research, you could do a good quick
Google
research. I've looked at it. Like there are long wait times in Canada for doctor visits. I don't know. Like you,
the average wait time for a physical in Canada is between 14 and 21 days. The average wait time for a physical in Massachusetts is 28 days. So I don't know that is somehow worse for us. Maybe it's shorter in Chicago. I don't know.
I don't know like necessarily the average wait time and stuff and everything. I'm just saying like
you told me you looked it up. I'm just giving you the same time.
I'm
quickly Google.
No, I'm talking about the same.
Quickly Google.
No, I'm saying I'm the average wait time in Canada.
Yes, is 14 to 21 days.
I've heard it's longer than that, but like you and me and stuff and everything, like my point is there's you're saying like you and me and stuff and everything, there's wait times and stuff and everything here. But like you and me and stuff, my point is like you and me and stuff and everything, the cost of the universal health care. That's my concern about like you and me and stuff and everything.
So that was my original point. What is the cost of a life to you? What is the value of life?
There is no cost to life. Obviously it's invaluable, but like you and me and stuff also like you and me and stuff and everything, like I think like you and me and stuff and everything creating trying to solve a problem and then like creating like you know what I mean a problem that you didn't think would be a problem is something that you should be thinking about. Like you and me and stuff, and when you see like you and me and stuff in other countries that have these issues, if like you and me and stuff, you're creating like you and saying this universal healthcare program, and like you and me at the end of 4 years, because that's Bernie Sanders' plan. At the end of like you and me in the 4th year, everyone will be eligible for like you and me universal healthcare. Mm-hmm. But like you and me and stuff, everything like what if like you and me and stuff, everything like this program costs more than like you know what I mean what people were anticipating. People were experiencing longer wait times and stuff and everything like than they anticipated for doctors. Like maybe that makes like you and me and stuff.
And all of that is speculation rooted in what? An anecdote or a couple things you read on the internet?
I mean, I think like you and me and stuff, everything like based on like you and me and stuff, the concerns, talking to people from Canada, and then also like research and stuff, everything on the internet, like you and me and stuff, everything. You can say it's anecdotal, but like you and me and stuff, everybody's clearly
one guy you talk to.
Everybody's clearly not happy. No, I researched and stuff, everything. I've heard this from a couple people who live in Canada. That's where I got the idea from, like you and me and stuff, everything, which brings me to concern about it. And like you and me and stuff, everything. I don't know because I don't live in Canada, but like you and me and stuff, obviously everybody is not happy with their health care. Like you and me and stuff, everything.
And with their health care here.
That's true as well. But like you and me and stuff, everything.
So
like,
everybody there is unhappy with their health care and has health care. Everybody here is unhappy with their health care and has medical debt that is crippling them.
I don't know. A lot of the people and stuff, everything that have health care are moving here. like you and me and stuff. And so like you and me and stuff, everything. If Canada's so bad, because I know a lot of Canadians and stuff that moved here. So if they were so happy,
to Canada, so
I don't know as many Americans that moved to Canada. I'm sure there are like you and me and stuff. I'm saying like personally in my own life.
The
Yeah.
definition of anything.
Yeah, I know. Like you and saying and stuff and everything. I understand that, but like you and me, I don't know. Like you and me and stuff and everything. Like that many Americans that have moved. I don't know any of Americans that have moved to Canada, but I do know Canadians that have moved here. I know way more. Like you were saying, vastly. No, I'm not saying like you know what I mean. And everything. I bet like statistically too, if you look it up and
So
stuff.
we'll pause for 1 second.